let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, feedism, and everything in their orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're welcoming to the show, we've got a good friend, Elle.
Hey, thank you.
Hello, my love. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty all right. I'm getting through it.
Getting through it. Feels like that kind of a week, doesn't it?
It really does. It honestly really does.
Has the temperature been going up and down a lot for you guys as well?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was like 80s, 90s beginning of the week, and now like it's like 60s outside. I'm like freezing cold.
Oh,
I think it's all that up and down that like I know that some people say, oh, there's such a myth about the weather, but I really do. Like you get accustomed to a climate and then when it shifts drastically, like your body gets confused.
Yeah.
no, 100%. My voice is in a little bit of a state at the moment for that exact reason. Although I choose to believe it means that the seasons are shifting, I choose to believe that we are coming into a period that I am going to enjoy. I'm putting it out there into the universe. It's my body's way of getting ready. So, with that, Elle, my love, are you ready to get into our conversation today?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Listen, I've been looking forward to this. I always look forward to talking to our Feabie female guests because I just feel like, we just don't get to have these conversations enough, I think. And
Yeah.
I'm always eager to learn about what's going on the other side of the aisle. So,
It's a party.
it's a party. So, I suppose maybe as a first port of call for anyone who's not familiar with you and your growth journey, do you want to give our listeners just a bit of a snapshot about what your journey's been like from start to now?
Yeah, so I was 18 when I was in the community. I actually went under a different username. I had about 50K on Insta when I first started. I went under the username BellyGirl101. I ended up taking a break for a bit and I switched to the name littlefeeder. And I still had a couple thousand followers on Instagram because I'd recently got banned, so I'd made a new account. You know how Insta is. But Little Feeder just kind of stuck. I came back into the community about late 2021, and I've been in the community ever since, off and on. I take breaks here and there just for like mental health stuff. Been banned several times, but I keep coming back. I'm a fighter.
I love that positive approach. Well, I don't know about positive. That sort of acceptance of this is what the internet is like. This is how people love to treat gorgeous, large people who are just trying to be out here having a good time.
I know. I want to be a part of the community. I want to talk to my friends in the community. I want to show different body types in the community
Mm,
and be able to preach that body positivity within the community.
mm. And I love that. And now, listeners, of course, we will do socials at the end. But, we do say here on the podcast, unofficially, every guest is a stunner. And listen, Elle is absolutely no obsession. No obsession? Pff, no. Exception. That's the
Obsession.
obsession.
Tell me more.
No exception. No exception. Apologies, listeners. Oh my goodness, my words. But I love that fire, that attitude of someone who insists you will not be taken away from something that is very true and reflective of who you are. And really, when we see the images, when we do the search later on, ladies and gentlemen, Elle is a stunner. So you're going to
Thank you.
just the power behind this presence. So I want to ask you, as a female feedist, what is your personal perception of expectations of women in the feedist community?
So, expectations of women in the fetus community, they vary a lot. I feel like overall there's this generalized idea that a female feedy should just be kind of like perfectly submissive, have like the perfect body where everything looks shapely, like perfect boobs, perfect belly, perfect thighs, perfect butt, you know. And there's really a drive on being that quiet, submissive, perfect body type and fitting into almost like this mold, which I feel like the community should be about breaking out of that mold and loving all different body types. But sadly, that's not always the case.
So men can be toxic no matter what community they're a part
It's not
of.
just men either. It's even women in the community too.
Yeah, I mean, over on the, I guess the queer man's side of things, because we,
Yeah.
we use different terms and everything. We say gainer and encourager and all that. Like, we have this. There's infighting within our own ranks, and there are people that have some very strong opinions about the way that gaining should be done, as if they, as if they've written the patent on it somehow.
They're the gaining gods. It's hard. It's hard to deal with, when people are constantly comparing you to someone else and trying to fit you in that other person's mold. It can be really hard on the mind, trying to live up to someone else's expectations.
I mean, I think it's a real dance, isn't it? As people who post content of themselves, as people who are doing the growing, there is a true pleasure and a joy in being able to photograph and film yourself, being able to dress and eat, create the content you want,
Mhm.
and really represent your growth journey in a way that feels authentic and correct to you. I want to live this life. I want to share this image of me. And I'm so glad that there are people who resonate with that in our communities because the wider world, of course, does not share in that. But of course, that duality of people who want to live only in the fantasy or people who say, I like this, but what about this? And maybe that's not an accurate reflection of the amount of weight we've gained or the body shape we've got. And you do end up wondering to yourself, like, how much of this is wanting to see my gains in a different way that might be fair to me? And how much of this is maybe placing expectations that are a bit unreasonable with a lack of accountability to that dynamic?
Exactly. One of the biggest issues is with being a model in the community, no matter your gender, is people see you almost as a sex object. They forget that you're a real human with real feelings. And that's what I really try to promote on my page. Like, hey, I'm a real person. I am not perfect. I have feelings. I have bad days. Like there are some days where I struggle to eat. I got stomach issues too. I have all these feelings and stuff, and I should be able to talk about them. I should be able to be myself, and that's what my account is all about, is being me and being free and stuff. And I feel like in the community a lot of the times there's so much pressure to where I have to fit the mold that I can't be free.
Oh, that authenticity really just shines through there. And actually, something I want to say here really quickly. I don't know why I haven't thought to ask this before. We've had a number of beautiful women guests on so far. You call yourself a model, and I know that other people have used that language as well.
Mhm.
And I think what a beautiful reflection of what I think sometimes people look at as something just very simple, very basic in terms of, potentially that reflection of sex work or just creating content, being a porn star, if that's verbiage that some people have used. I love that model feels like a term that's maybe a bit more apt because maybe that steps away a little bit from those traditional ideas of I'm just a person producing content for a certain purpose. Model really connotes that sense of no, no, I am the Madonna. I am the person, the image who is being respected here, rather than simply I don't know. Does that make sense? Or am I maybe
Yeah,
barking?
no, it completely makes sense. And also, I think that us in the community calling ourselves models really shows people that anyone can be a model, no matter how you look, no matter how you feel inside. As long as you're true to yourself, you can be a model too. And I think us community using that word for people who are posting, it's one of the happiest things of their lives that makes them feel kind of like themselves, because a lot of the times this kink is a really, really big part of people. It takes up not only a sexual aspect, but like a platonic and kind of relationship aspect too. It's not just all about the sexual pleasure. It's about feeling confident in your own skin and doing what makes you feel good about yourself.
James has said before on the show, and I'm coming around to agreeing with him because I used to kind of just look at this as a kink or a fetish because I hadn't really understood like how it integrates fully into my life yet. But he has suggested that it is really a sexuality because you look at any other kink or fetish out there, there is a certain a procedure to doing it, and then like you can have your scene, you can have your playtime, you can have your whatever, and then it can all go in a trunk and get hidden in a closet somewhere, and no one ever knows about it. But we wear it on our bodies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So like I agree that it has evolved from, at least in my thinking, and I know yours as well, James, that from a just a simple kink to a full-blown sexuality.
I completely agree. Even as a kid, like I knew I wanted to be bigger. I knew I wanted to be fat, you know. This is something that have came with me my whole life. And, you know, I know looking back, if younger me could see where I'm at now, I would feel beautiful. I would look at myself and be like, wow, I'm beautiful. And that makes me feel so good.
That really makes me feel emotional, actually. That thing of, if I could look back at my younger self and they could see me now, they would know that I am beautiful. You know, I feel like sometimes we forget that adage as we get older, that whole be the person that, you needed when you were growing up when no one was there for you. And I know we do that. We
Hmm.
should do that emotionally. But I think
Yes.
the pursuit of the thing that brings us joy is a fulfillment of the heart and a fulfillment of that reality. So many gainers share this experience of being a true child under the age of 10 when they can recollect for the very first time seeing someone of size and going, oh my God, what is this? I am obsessed with this. So
Yes.
much of what we feel predates sexual period, any of it. It must exist in a realm that is reflective of the truest, most authentic childlike self. And that's such a beautiful thing to be able to look back and know that a younger version of you is looking at you, who you are today, and is smiling because they know that somehow, some way, you made it. You got there. And I think for you, Elle, that's so reflective in that authenticity and in that energy that you bring to the situation. I want to highlight for a moment, you'd mentioned, you have stomach issues at times. You can't always be
Yeah.
eating. And it's that desire to be able to be honest with that. Do you feel like that sort of tone of, hey guys, can we be real for a second? Do you feel like there is ample opportunity to do that within the fetus community?
It's about 50-50. I've been very open. I'm actually a disabled creator. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I have severe asthma. You know, I've been in and out of the hospital with asthma. I've posted my journey about it on Feabie and stuff. You know, and some people are really receptive to it and they're like, "Wow, you're inspiring, you know, you still do this kink and you live with chronic pain, you live with chronic issues, but you don't let that stop you. You don't let medical fat phobia get to you. You work through it." And to some people, it can be really inspiring, but to others, they're like, well, pump the brakes. Like, you're a model, stay a model, be a model. And, you know, I feel like as a community, we should really look more towards those people that are showing true versions of themselves and advocating for better opportunities for everyone in the community because we have every type of person here. You know, no one's excluded in this community, and that's the way it should be.
Girl, you made me want to get up on my soapbox, goddamn. Like that is Tim, is this not like the core fucking outcry message of this goddamn motherfucking podcast? Like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
we are just all people trying to have a good fucking time. I mean, I remember when we first started this podcast, we got a couple of random messages from people being like, when are you gonna talk about the sexy stuff? And we're sat here like, baby, every other minute of every other day, of every other post and video and live stream and platform is to do with what makes your body feel good with relation to this. This is a space to quite literally talk about how everything else makes us feel about this.
Exactly. I posted a selfie once on my Instagram, my Feedism Instagram, and I got that post had the least amount of likes of any of my posts. It had like 30 likes and all of my other posts had like hundreds. I was like, are you serious?" It's a selfie. I feel pretty. But, you know, in the fact I couldn't even post a selfie on my account was just kind of like shocking to me.
I feel like the queer gainers have been trained to like, if you're gonna take a selfie, make sure the belly's in it, because otherwise, what's the point? It's like we've just been trained to like include our belly in anything.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel like it is a lot of the times. Like, I'll be on live stream and I'll just be eating and talking. I want to hang out with people. I feel alone. I feel bored. I want to talk to people. I want to talk. I'm in a talkative mood. I'm going to go live. And people are like, belly, belly, belly. And I'm like, dang, let's have a conversation.
James, that's why I used to do all my old live streams shirtless, because I was like, I know what they're coming for.
Yeah.
I know why they're here. Like, there's no point in pretending.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Sadly, I can't do live stream shirtless.
oh. But you know what? We should do a live stream sometime. I mean, we do Thicc streams with Thicc Radio, and
hmm
sometimes Tim and I will just go live just whenever we're both free and chit chat. So, baby, if you've
Yeah.
ever got time to chit chat, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Do you know what people's. Okay, because I want to say this. One of our female guests before basically expressed a sentiment of like, sometimes it feels like people don't quite know how to approach female models about how to just be sociable or even how to like have a good conversation sometimes. And I really hope that like this little type of dynamic shows to people just how easy and conversational it can be to say, hey, hi, hello, we're all people here. How we
Exactly. Exactly. I keep my DMs closed unless they're like for paid customs or people I know because most of the time it's just people sliding up a mommy story saying hot or emojis, or just hi or hey. And then when I try to engage with them and have a conversation, it's just instantly about my body. Not hey, how's your day going? How are you? Let me learn about you. Like they don't want to have that genuine conversation, and that's kind of what like I'm looking for and what I think we should have in the community instead of just instantly jumping into this and instantly jumping into feederism and the kink and the sexual stuff. Why don't we have a real conversation first? Get to know me.
I feel like people are always so quick as well to be like, well, that's just how it is, and you're not like it, but I'm like, no, like, we don't have to like it, and we don't have to sit here and accept things that we don't like, because despite this very weird trend, right? Like, the
Mhm.
societal stereotype of fat people is we don't like ourselves, we don't respect ourselves, we'll kind of just
Mhm.
roll over and say thank you for the slop we're given because we are fat and we don't deserve good things. And despite the weird tone that sometimes seems to carry over into gaining in feedism, where people seem to believe that, we do what we do because we love ourselves and because we respect
Exactly.
ourselves so much. I'm willing to transform my body, no matter how difficult it might be, to
Mhm.
make the thing happen. Tim and I talk about this all the time. We are not the biggest people around, and both of us have struggled with weight gain because we've just got those genetics. That means that efforts don't go as far as it might do for other
Yeah.
people. That's
Yeah, and I compare this to kind of bodybuilding. People who bodybuild are kind of almost in the same boat as us. They're changing stuff about their body as well.
shout out to all of the muscle gainers because y'all are out here representing for the muscles and the fat
Yup.
and all the big, thickums, gorgeous, just what was it? I think the very first muscle gainer roundtable we had, we agreed that we would call them meatballs.
Meatballs. Oh,
Yeah.
that's adorable.
Right? Just oh, my little
You
meatballs, my
know?
little meatballs. Oh, we love our
And
meat.
I think the true thing about not taking your care of yourself is I actually am recovering from anorexia and bulimia. I have suffered with eating disorders since I was about 13. I really struggled. I also have ARFID, which is autism-based eating disorder for the most part. It's like anorexia, but different. It's a restrictive food intake disorder based off of sensory issues. So I have severe sensory issues and stuff. And, I think not taking care of myself was when I was really in that low point, when I was struggling with food, when I was struggling with my body. Now I eat, and yeah, I feel a little guilt in the back of my mind, but not as much anymore. I've worked through it and I can eat pretty much without having that guilt, and I feel comfortable in my own skin. I feel comfortable eating. And I think that shows real growth and real love for myself was being able to work through that and get through that and then come up here and bring myself up. And I think that's a really good thing about feederism is that food freedom.
Oh, that touches my heart. That really does. My heart breaks for you for, the anorexia and ARFID and all of those moments of struggle because I think so many people do. And we're very grateful and humbled that you shared that with us here on the podcast. And I think, we've had this conversation with people before about how I believe for many of us who are inclined towards size, whether that's for other people that we admire or for ourselves, I would be so interested to know what the stats are for people who experience anorexia and other forms of eating disorders because they are so at war with the idea of what they want for themselves and how society thinks that they should be.
I will say about 5 times out of 10 from people I've met in the community, at least 5 out of 10 of them have had a eating disorder in the past.
See, I think that tracks. I would love to know the numbers for people who, in the wider world experience any form of restrictive eating or an eating disorder, and maybe it comes down to something as simple as they want this, but society has positioned them to feel so horrible about the idea of it that it results in some form of disordered eating. And I believe gaining feedism, I believe it all can result in a healing for people, not because it's saying you should have to grow to an immense size if you don't want to, but because it says you can just enjoy food. It is one of our five fucking senses, like the way that we interact with the universe. And you're telling me that like there are just all these rules about around like what's good?
Like, do you know how good like pizza is? You're
Oh,
gonna tell me that you don't want to eat pizza? Like, pizza's amazing. Like, food is amazing. The different textures, the different flavors, yes, I struggle with that, and I can't really preach that because I am the blandest person alive. But
but
there's so much to explore and adore.
But even within, your own, yeah, you'd mentioned like autistic, like a form of restricted eating. But even within that, I'm sure there's that sense of as much as you can want to express or want to engage in, you would do that with abandon. And I think that's such a beautiful way to live life and to love on our bodies.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask, we're always curious, like how are dynamics in the community, right? Like how you see yourself in relation to the expectations that people put out there. But I'd be interested to know, since being on your growth journey, how has society shifted in how they've treated you?
So I was pretty small when I was 18. I was about 170, like a little after my 18th birthday. And now I'm over 340. So it's definitely been a growth. I've always been very blessed in the chest. I've always been bigger chested. So a lot of the times people thought I was bigger than I was, even though I was like super small. So I always had a little bit of people being kind of fat phobic towards me. But now that I'm older, it's a lot of medical fat phobia from the medical community and other people online being like, oh, well, you shouldn't eat as much. When little do they know, like, how much I eat in a day. Not everyone knows that. It varies day to day. Not one person eats everything day by day, the same thing. And society really just, it's not that kind of fat people. Finding clothes that fit and look cute, especially as a plus size femme person, is so hard because most of the time they are so old ladyish almost. Like, if I have to see one more skull print or one more animal print, I'm probably gonna lose my mind. Stop with the peplum blouses and the cold shoulders. Like, give me the same things in straight sizes and plus sizes. And that plus the hate online that fat people get, plus the medical side of it. It's just the societal oppression of fat people is awful. And I think it stems back to a lot of bad history.
I had said just a couple of episodes ago about how it's the last frontier where it is perfectly acceptable to mock, ridicule, belittle, shame, and discriminate against because there's just decades and decades and decades worth of scientific studies into weight gain and disease and there's not enough information to accurately say anything, but there's so much miasma out there now that you get people who have no medical training whatsoever all of a sudden coming up with these stupid products or being gurus or writing books about how you can achieve the perfect life, blah blah blah. I forgot where I was going with this.
You're
Well,
okay. I kind of get what you're saying because I went from going as a kid to being like, oh, you'll grow out of it, to as an adult where they'd be like, oh, well, it's because of your weight. And I'm like, well, why did I have the same issue when I was a kid, when I was smaller and I wasn't having? How is it different any now? You said I was going to grow out of it, but I didn't.
shout out to the Big Sexy Chat podcast because one of their episodes, they interviewed a man named Dr. Robert, and it was very interesting. The conversation was very much centered on his experiences as a doctor, and I can't remember which host it was. He was their doctor as well, but he was very conscious of weight and not bringing that up into conversation. He said his rule is if they don't bring up their weight, I'm not going to bring it up because that's not what they're there for, right? Like,
Exactly.
if they want to talk about it, then sure, I can advise on what I know. He brought up a very interesting statistic that apparently 97% of all weight loss interventions that are recommended by doctors fail because
Exactly.
they have a extremely high fail rate because they're just, well, one, they're not there, but also two, doctors are not dietitians.
They're not.
Doctors can only advise on what they can advise. They can't speak to all that. And I want to reference as well, Dandy Buns, who was on previously, is also a doctor. And also shout out to Dr. Gaynor, who's been on a couple times. And this conversation around health and weight and the importance of delineating health expectations from size is tantamount because we have far too many stories of larger people who are like, I had to go through 6 or 7 doctors before someone would finally perform a scan on me. Plot twist,
Mhm.
it's a tumor. Plot twist, it was cancer. Plot twist, it was something that
Yep.
nobody was looking at because they just said,
Exactly.
if you just lose weight. As
Yeah.
one, as if that was the solution, and two, if I even wanted to. It's interesting, Tim, you reference like over the years, over the decades, just how many studies there
Exactly.
are about weight and size and how people get fat and why people get fat and all of these things, as if, even if there was some kind of like weird scientific answer, which y'all, it's been decades, right? If there was some kind of secret
Mhm.
fucking gainer cabal, first of all, where are they? Feed me, please. But second of all, clearly
Yes.
not the fucking case, right? But like all that study and not one done into like, is the treatment of fat people maybe a part of why there's some disconnect here? Maybe we could have a little bit more humanity, please.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Because
I
that's not
think
popular. That's not a popular field of study. It's not a money maker. It's not it's not something that people are willing to give grants for research to. The whole world is obsessed with weight and obsessed with food, nutrition, all these things that are just great buzzwords. That if you can write a grant well enough and submit it to the corporation, they're probably going to give you the money that you want for it. No one's gonna like feel very confident in one of those positions. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean that we're treating fat people like crap? Although that's because they're unhealthy. They're supposed to be treated like crap, and then you don't get the money for that kind of research.
I think Button Poetry said it best. There was a plus size poet, and her poem started with a fat girl walks into the doctor for a flu shot and gets asked if she's ever eaten a salad in her entire life. And that's the way it is so much for fat people going to the doctors.
I think it's so important, again, to come back to these points of, how people are treated in the real world, because sometimes I do fear that our love of fat, our love of growth, of gaining and fetishism, as much as we denote so much pleasure from it, I worry that at times we don't sit with the realities of this is what you can expect to experience. If you gain above a certain threshold, the
Hmm.
way that people will treat you will change. Your ability to access the joys of the wider world will
Hmm.
change. And people will have something to say about that. It's unfair, it's not reasonable, but y'all should know that, especially before you make the decision to gain past a certain side, because maybe you're not prepared to deal with that situation. And people need to know. I would be curious to probe as well, speaking on that sense of womanness that you
Hmm.
live and exude. Do you feel like your relationship with men at large has shifted over the course of your journey?
It definitely has, not even just within the community, without outside of the community as well. I went from being someone who a lot of the times people would be like, "Oh yeah, showing off my girl," to someone who a lot of the times people I was dating tend to hide me because they were ashamed to be seen with a fat girl. Which is so kind of dumb. You should not be ashamed of your partner. But I really started experiencing that. I dated this guy and he would never take me out. Anytime I see him, we just stayed in his room. He wouldn't want to go anywhere with me. He wouldn't want to do anything with me. Like if we were out in public, like I'd be like trying to hold his hand. He'd be like, he'd hold it for like a few seconds, then like let go if there's other people. And like it's really hard. The way men perceive you, they start not seeing you as a person almost. A lot of these men act like, oh, well, fat women aren't people. And that's not true at all.
it's a disgusting reality that I see women facing. And you know, Tim, we often talk about how on the gay side of things there is a culture of basically going, well, this is how things are. And I know I mentioned this before. This is how things are. You're not going to change this. Just get into it. And I do think perhaps there has been a time in our past as queer people where people learned to just go, well, I'm only one person. What can I do to change this? But I do feel that things are changing.
They
I'll
are.
say this. I'm not going to be able to remember this quote word for word, so I'll just paraphrase it. But it's this idea of objectification leads to not seeing that person as human, and then that leads to you being willing to take away their rights.
100%. It's an interesting thing where, and I note this because, and again, this makes us feel good. This makes us feel very horny and
Hmm.
sexual. Sometimes people go, because it makes me feel horny, it can't be bad. And I do agree, as far as it comes to like gaining and feedism as ideas, as processes, as ways to live life. I agree. Makes you horny, doesn't mean it's bad. 100%.
Hmm.
But the notion of, oh, I'm so aroused by the idea of negging at people. I'm so aroused by the idea of belittling you. Oh, well, of course I only want to keep you in this one particular context because you are sex to me. You are this sexy thing. I don't want to do this thing in the real world. It breaks the fantasy for me. It ruins this sexual narrative for me. Sexualized dehumanization is a very real thing.
Yes.
And where I draw the line between, I don't believe that gaining or fetishism is a fetish personally. I believe them to be full-blown sexualities, like you've mentioned, Tim.
Hmm.
I think when those moments happen of people sort of going, well, of course I don't treat you like I treat a normal person because you're fat, because you are the fantasy. I think that's when we step into true fat fetishization. And I think that's the fat fetishization that so many BBWs who are not members of the community talk about being
Yes.
mistreated by people within the community. And we need to fucking wrangle a bitch. We need to
Yeah.
get the fucking lasso out, rope him up, sit him down, smack him across the face
Yeah.
like a fucking dog with a rolled up newspaper. Just fucking stop that.
Well, James,
Very.
how many times over the years did we see like straight men who like were just out there outside the community, like on YouTube or on Twitter or some other social media platform where they had begun to put on some weight, and then what happened? A group of unscrupulous people descended upon them and was like, "Oh, you should keep gaining weight. You should keep gaining weight," and it freaked them out. And like they have formed an extremely negative opinion of our entire community based on that behavior.
Yeah. And it's very common to see like people in the community. I've seen so many posts by guys are like, how do I secretly fatten up my girlfriend? I'm like, no, 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 no. There's this thing called consent. We love consent here, and I'll post a picture and automatically there's people in my comments degrading me. And I'm like, hold up, hold up. You gotta ask me on a date first, pay for my dinner before we're gonna get on all the bedroom stuff. Like,
Baby, run me
slow
my
down.
run me my fucking check, bitch, because you don't know me like that. You don't get to speak to me like that. Oh, but I've seen you have this engagement with other people. Yeah, either because I like them or they paid. Don't
And
you?
then that's your choice. You chose to do it. It was your active decision to have that interaction with that person. It was not thrust upon you.
Yeah, it's presumption of, oh, I've seen this and therefore I presume that this is fine. And it's not asking the obvious question of, is this okay? Are you comfortable with me doing this? What would you like? What works for you? It's a lack of humanity and consideration. And I suppose there's a slight comfort in the fact that it seems to happen on both sides of the community. Um, does not change the fact that this is something we would like to see changed immediately. Please and thank you.
Yeah. Please and thank you.
So interesting hearing about, how you connect with men. What about your relationships with women, especially as it pertains to the community as you've grown? Do you feel like there is that sense of community, or is there potentially some sense of competition at times?
It's really hit or miss. It really depends on who you interact with. Like, I've made some really good friends in the community. I've talked to other women in the community. Some of them are super nice, they're super sweet, they're friendly. Others of them can be kind of catty almost. There is that sense of competition between them, especially if they think that like you're not as famous as they are. They might kind of push you down a little more. And that's the kind of sad part about it, is that us women in this community almost view each other as competitors that we're fighting against, but in all reality, we should be working together, to make this community a better place. We should be friendly to each other. We should be nicer. Like, there's no reason you should be like being mean to another creator to the point where they leave the internet, and I've seen that happen before.
So it happens over on the Grommr side of things too.
It's very frustrating. It creates this weird sense of an internalized hierarchy that goes, well, if you want to be someone of note in the space, if you want to be someone to be respected, you have to, sort of show the receipts, And to
Yes.
a degree, I understand that sense of, we're here for the gains, bloating and stuffing and padding. These are fantasy
Mhm.
approaches to gains a lot of the
Yeah,
time. Maybe that isn't quite what some people are looking for. Some people are looking to see
exactly.
the true growth, the true transformation.
Hmm.
But even if you are that person who's looking to have all that growth,
Hmm.
like a lot of us started off skinty. And so if you show up in the community 150 pounds or less, you know, that should never denote a sense of, well, put in the hours, kid, before you're worth talking to me. Like, I
Yeah.
think people who hold that attitude, it's
It's
a real issue.
it's also really sad on our side as well. I don't know if this is on your side too, but there are people who will shame you if they think you're too big. Like, I've been shamed because people are like, "Oh, you're too big. You're not a real feedie. You're too big." And I'm like, "What? That shouldn't be a thing here. We should be loving all body types." And I've seen so many people post like real feedies are like 200, 250 pounds. I'm like, that's not realistic, especially with the way heights vary and stuff. And
Damn, I wish that the bar was set that low on our side of things because they keep moving the bar up. Like 400 became the new 300, and 500 is the new
Mm,
400.
it's both of them on our sides where they're like, "Oh, you're too skinny for me." I've been told I'm too skinny for people. I've been told I'm too fat for people, both within the community. And I'm
mm,
like, how is this acceptable? How are you going to tell me that I'm not good enough for you when I didn't ask?
mm. Again, it's that projection of you exist only to appease me. And if you don't fit within the realm of what appeases me, then I have the right to tell you that you are
Mhm.
bad and wrong because it's not what I personally like. I would say on our side of things, reflecting on guests who shared experiences, I don't know that there's so much of people being shamed for being too big, though I imagine there's probably going to be some instances of that. And things aren't a monolith. But I think certainly the more common experience, the larger you get, is the more hyper fetishization that exists. I think we once had Icarus on the show back all the way back in season one. Shout out to Icarus, who was saying, I think we'd asked him how many times a day do you just get messaged by like thin little Twinkies, baby gainers, or chasers, or whoever, people who are just like, oh my god, the size you're at is incredible. You're 500 pounds. Like, I want to be your size. How can I get to your size? And he's like, I get that like multiple dozens of messages every single day. And then I was like, in the years that you have been in the community, how many of those motherfuckers actually went ahead and got that big? And he was like, one or two, maybe. Everyone else is just chasing a fantasy. And again, that element of people are so enwrapped in what arouses them that they are not like snapping out of that and looking and going, oh shit, that's a person in front of me and I am
Yeah.
acting wild right now.
I I get asked at least once a day, like, "Do you have any secrets to gaining? Like, how did you gain so much weight? Like, what should I do? Like, what's the secret?" And I'm like, "You are asking the world's worst person. I have a shot metabolism from eating disorders. I have PCOS that causes weight gain, and everyone's body is different. Everyone's genetics is different. No two of us are the same. The way I gain and what worked for me is not going to work for you, pal, because we're two different people. If it does, that is amazing. That is wonderful. And I love to hear that. But what I did is not going to help everyone. And so it's so discouraging to give someone advice and then for to be like, well, this didn't help me and see how hard they're trying, but how hurt they are because makeups of ourselves. And so I feel like as a community, like we should be more aware with giving out advice with this. and kind of keep a more take it with a grain of salt, you know?
Mm. I mean, I preach this every time. Over the years, everyone has asked everyone, "What is your secret?" And people get really frustrated when someone who has gained weight rapidly goes, "I don't know, I just started eating more." But do you want to know why that worked for them? Because they had the metabolism, because they
Yep.
had the genetic setup, that all they had to do was just eat a little more. And they
Mhm.
had rapid growth. That's why they have a nonchalant approach to it. That's why they don't understand the struggle of people who don't gain weight very fast because that's just not their lived experience. This is why all of us need to be out here sharing our experiences.
Yep.
And for a lot of people who it seems didn't have the genetic good luck charm, a lot of
Mhm.
people in the communities have potentially taken some riskier options. You know, there are people who have fucked around with SSRIs and lied to multiple doctors to get multiple dosages because SSRIs
Yep.
sometimes have a side effect of weight gain. You know,
Yeah, which is scary.
you mentioned yourself having PCOS, and you know, it's one of those things that I imagine people who are so wrapped up in the fantasy would probably not hinder to say like, "Oh wow, that's so hot! Like it helps you get fat. You were destined to get fat," and you're just out there
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit, dude!"
Like, this is a horrible thing. I had to get a hysterectomy at 22 because of it. Like, it is not fun by any means. And it's gotten to the point where I don't give advice anymore because it discourages people. You know, it makes them feel so bad about themselves. You know, and so one thing I tell people is like, because I gained very fast. I gained 170 pounds in like 4, almost 5 years, which is kind of a lot to double your weight like that, you
That's a
know?
lot. That's a lot. 10 pounds a year technically is faster medically than what humans apparently should be gaining. So like
Exactly.
that's a huge amount of weight.
And this is just from eating normally, you know? Yeah, I stuff myself on occasion. Yes, I splurge here and there. But most of the time I'm eating normal meals. And so that's why I'm like, you can't look at me and do the exact same thing I did because I have hormonal issues. I am actually on these SSRIs because I need them. I desperately do. It is not good up in that old brain of mine.
Girly, metazapine.
Wellbutrin.
And
I love my
uh,
Wellbutrin.
I just was recently put on Lexapro.
Lexapro's a good one. I really hope it works for you.
I so far I'm feeling good, so I think I'm gonna keep with it.
And you know what? Let's talk mental health medications for a second because you know there's such a stigma around like seeking like interventions for mental health. There is
Yeah.
this weirdly British approach of stiff upper lip and carry on, have a teaspoon of concrete and harden the fuck up, princess, get over it.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, I would really like help to process some of the
Yeah.
things that tick along upstairs. Mama would
Yes.
handheld.
I I always heard stop crying or I'm gonna give you something to cry about or rub some dirt in it is what I was always told, you know. Or sit in one hand, one in the other, see which fills up faster, you know, all those old sayings and stuff. But mental health is so, so important. It really is, you know, taking time to take care of yourself doesn't include your body, but it includes your mind too. It includes all parts of you, you know, and you truly can't improve yourself in the ways you want to without improving your mind. You know, people are supposed to change. We are supposed to grow. We're not supposed to stay the same. We are supposed to water ourselves and nourish ourselves and be working towards becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can be. You know, every day I wake up in the day and say, well, what am I striving for? And what I'm striving for is to be a good person. I want to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I know I did good today. I can call myself a good. And I
Mm,
feel everyone should strive towards that.
I love that. That touches so much what we were saying before about being the person that the younger version of you would be proud of. And, you know, I love what you say about the not giving out of advice and the knowledge that, you know, more of us need to learn what is correct for us. You know, again, that mental health moment within gaining and feedism and how I think all of us come on our journeys to find ourselves. There really has to be a discovery of like how, like what approach to gaining is correct for you. An approach to gaining, you know, if it's as simple for you as I'm either a glutton where I eat a lot in one go or I graze throughout the day, brilliant. But for some people,
Exactly.
it's understanding I need to eat grains rather than legumes. I need to have healthy fats like avocado and coconut rather than butter because I have lactose intolerance going
Yep.
on. I need to be mindful of sugar content because I'm worried about diabetes and maybe that runs in my family. And so, actually, to pursue this growth journey, I need to be conscious of my sugar consumption from the get. You know, all of these are factors and considerations in your gaining journey, which, baby, people don't know you. They don't know your medical history. They don't know
Mhm.
your shit. You need to be on top of your shit for yourself because
Exactly.
nobody else is out here holding your hand to make
Yeah.
sure you're okay. Because you've got to do that for you. That's the adult moment of no,
Hmm.
you've got to be on top of your shit. You've got to know your shit.
Exactly.
So now we do have a listener question, and to be fair, I'm always curious about this, especially on the straight side of things, because as queer men, you know, obviously we already did the big old revelation of straight isn't for us, but
Yeah.
it's interesting that this is a conversation I like to have with people on the straight side of things because you know because this is such a potent sexual thing for so many of us, the question is, has your engagement with gaining and fetishism made you question your sexuality or your gender, any other parts of your identity at all?
Honestly, it definitely made me start questioning my gender. I use she, they pronouns. I am on the non-binary spectrum. It really made me question like who I was inside and who I wanted to be. And yeah, I feel very femme, but it's like if you ordered a girl from Wish. Yeah, it looks like a girl and it feels like a girl, but something's kind of off about it.
Girl, you got me out here hollering and cackling. I am a he, they, and I have never felt my non-binary gender represented so fiercely as it's man from Wish, where it's like, it's a rough approximation, but there's a little something where you're like, not quite there yet.
So then
Yeah.
what if you're from Timu instead?
Oh no,
Or
I'm
from
not that.
Wayfair?
No, I think if you're
No,
from
I'm not.
Timu, that's when you're like the
I
kind of
can't make that joke.
no. I think if you're from Timu, you're a gutter bucket whore who's filled with gasoline. And
Oh, well then I came from Timu.
I guess I'm from Timu because I'm a train wreck.
oh my goodness. Oh.
A shirt that literally says "I'm cool, but I cry a lot," and that's my motto.
I love a good cry. I'm at a point in my life and my mental health where I can sort of almost predict based on my generalized mood, like, oh gosh, I've got some real background sads, don't I? I've got my list of, Avatar, The Last Airbender,
Uh,
fucking Uncle Iroh bits where it's like, nope, it's gonna make me cry every single
Yep.
time. Put that shit on repeat and just like let myself have it out, honestly.
I have songs that I'm like, I need to cry, and I'll listen to those songs just so I can sob.
Love it. I want to ask you, because I think this has been such a powerful episode, and I know we've touched on a lot. While I know you don't necessarily give advice to people in terms of diet, of course, we've talked
Mhm.
about that, but maybe for any feedies listening or people who are considering getting into the growth, do you have any advice in terms of first steps for people?
One thing I would recommend first step is to really think it over. I think a lot of people who start in this community don't really give it a full thought. It's kind of an impulse decision for a lot of people. I really say give it a good night's rest, really think on it, And then once you know that you're totally for sure, be true to yourself. Don't try to fit the mold that you see on every single model's pedestal, both male and female and everyone in between. Do what makes you feel pretty. Do what makes you feel comfortable in your skin and what makes you happy. Really try to remember to stay true to yourself through all of this.
I love that. Tim, what about you? Like for any, because we don't normally chime in these days with like for the baby gainers, but like, what would you say to?
Well, I would kind of like to relate it to what Elle said. It's like you have to do what makes you comfortable. You have to do what makes you feel pretty and or sexy. So like, I'm not, I've never done drag. Like I did it once for Halloween, but like my drag is my leather gear. When I am in, like when I've got the cuffs and the harness, the vest, the boots, all that's like, I feel hot. I feel like a leather daddy. Like
Mhm.
this is me. This is just dressing it up. This is like hyper masculinizing, if that's a word, my image, and that makes me feel sexy. So like I appreciate what Elle said about that. Is like you have to do things that bolster your own self-confidence, because that's what, and confidence is always sexy. It is always sexy. People want to be around it. People want to talk to confident people. It radiates off of you, and it's like a magnet. It just attracts people.
One thing I'll say to people who really struggle with their confidence is one thing that helped me is faking it till I made it. I acted like I was confident, even if I didn't feel confident. I swear some days I can be the most insecure person on the planet. And I'm working on it in therapy. I'm working hard. But faking it till I make it, just really forcing myself to step out of my comfort zone when it comes to confidence has really boosted it. Like
Mm,
if 18-year-old me looked at me today, seeing myself in crop tops and short shorts, she would have had a heart attack. That poor little girl, her heart would have stopped beating. She would be like, "What are you wearing?" But now that's what I feel comfortable in. And
mm,
it just started by one day just wearing it. I just wore it and left the house. I didn't look in the mirror, nothing.
mm.
There's a slight tweak to that, saying that it says, if you act like you belong, people treat you like you belong.
I think that thing of fake it till you make it, you people relegate that to the annals of like, oh yeah, people tell you shit, whatever, forget about it. But genuinely, y'all, some of these little nuggets, like take them out, shine them, have another look at them, because I truly think that
Mhm.
people could take from this. If I was going to give one piece of advice, and I guess it kind of piggybacks off what you were saying, Elle. Yes, have a think about it. I believe the first true step in the weight gain journey is not even picking up an ounce of food. It is not even deciding on goals. It is none of that. It is taking stock of your life and beginning to understand what changes you need to make to your life to make gaining and growth possible.
Mhm.
Because many of us live in situations where we are not making enough money to be gaining effectively full time.
Yeah,
And I understand that you can produce content. Sometimes people will pay, sometimes people will donate, sure. But if you really want to have the kind of growth that you are going to be able to be in control of and sustain for yourself, you need to sustain it yourself. So you've got to look at your finances. You've got to look
yeah,
at your home life. Where are you living? You've got to look at your job. You've got to look at your education if you're trying to get into a better job. You've got to look at your health. We were talking about this before.
yep.
You, you've got to take stock of every little thing, understand it, and be aware of it so that when you do finally begin to decide, oh, I'm going to gain weight, I'm going to really do this. When you do, you are making it as an informed decision that one, you are confident that you want to do this, and that two, you know the factors that you've got to consider when it comes to your weight gain, so that you
Exactly.
can look after yourself, sustain yourself, and be true to yourself all the
Mhm.
way through. This has been fantastic. Oh my fucking God. I want to round out here with a final question.
Mhm.
We talked about so much today. What is the big takeaway from today?
I really think the big takeaway of today is breaking the mold and being your true self and taking care of yourself, making sure that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable, and that you're loving what you're doing, and being true to who you are. I think that's the big takeaway.
I love that. But I will say, I was hoping you were going to say the big takeaway was a Popeyes chicken sandwich, because, bitch, I've got a hankering and a craving, goddamn. Mm.
I have chocolate chip waffles in front of me right now waiting to be devoured.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Homemade.
Oh, oh, homemade girl? Ooh.
Yeah, my fiance made them for me. They're
Oh,
truly the best. They're not even into this kink, but they're just the sweetest.
baby, can we? Okay, you know what? Here at the end of the episode, can we take a little moment to shout out to every non-gainer, non-feedy, non-community partner, man, woman, fiance, bitch? Can we thank every single motherfucker who shows up and gives love to us in the way that we need to be loved and valued and seen, just in
Mhm.
our day-to-day? Thank y'all.
Yeah, I want to give a big thank you to you guys as well. A really, really big thank you.
Well, this was a pleasure, honey. And you know what, baby? You are always welcome to come back. So listen, this has been Crackerjack. Thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, so I am on Tumblr, Twitter, Feabie, and Instagram. I go under the names Little Feeder, usually on all of them. The only one I will be wary of is Tumblr. There is a person pretending to be me. So
Oh,
just be a little wary about that. But
okay.
Little Feeder is usually my handle on Instagram. It's two underscores little underscore period underscore feeder two underscores. And then my backup is just underscore little underscore feeder underscore. That's been my username forever. You can always find me. Usually my hair color will change, but that's in my weight. But otherwise, you'll recognize the face.
Fabulous. And listeners, if you are not following our good girl Elle, you fucking better fix it today, goddammit. What a stunner, what an icon. But that is it, I think, for another week here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. Now listen, y'all, if you like this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, pretty please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccieMouse. You can also look us up on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or on our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to submit a voice note or become a financial supporter of the show, you can find the links in the show notes, and you can always write to us at thethiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Anchor app podcast produced by stannnum and Thickie Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by littlefeeder.
Our theme song is provided by Body by Cream.